Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 5th General Assembly of the World Youth Parliament for Water. We're so excited to have you all with us here today. It's our first parallel session of the event, so we're so excited to kick this off with an amazing session that GWPC has planned for you today. Before we get started, I just wanted to give you all a few technical information. So first of all, my name is Alyssa and I'm a youth project manager at the International Secretariat for Water, the co-organizing partners for this event. So first of all, I just wanted to remind you to please turn off your microphones if you're not speaking to avoid interfering noises. Also, if the connection becomes unstable, please turn off your camera. To ask questions to the panelists or to report a technical problem, please use the chat. We want this to be a super interactive session. So really use the chat, ask us questions, and we're definitely gonna take time to answer all of your questions throughout this session. You can also use emojis or raise your hand if you wish to. During the session, we will be using a Miro board. So I'm just going to drop the link for the Miro board in the chat. So please, if you are not used to using the Miro board, you can have a look at it. So I'll just when I just finish speaking, I'll just drop that in the chat for you. I'll invite you to open that up and have a look at the Miro. As well, I will be just starting a poll. So it's just a super quick poll. I've just launched it. It's basically just for us to get to know you a little bit better, where you're from, your gender and your interests. So if you just maybe want to take a few minutes or a few seconds just to answer that poll before we get started, and we'll just there's still people coming in, so we'll just let them come in for another few seconds. So maybe as you answer the poll, I'll take this opportunity to say a big thank you to GWPC for taking the lead on this session, and to all the speakers for being present today. It's really going to be an amazing session. So on that note, I will leave it over to Zofia for introducing remarks.
Welcome everyone to our Communications for Development session. My name is Zofia Pawlak, and together with our speakers, we'll look into some of the most important aspects of effective communication today. Then we'll create a communication strategy from scratch. Don't forget to post your questions in the chat. We'll go through them during our Q&A part. So let's get started.
So welcome everyone. First of all, we prepared a short questionnaire for you to warm up and set our communications mood correctly. But I guess first we'll wait for the first poll to stop. And yeah, perfect. Now, our first question is, how much of your work time do you invest in communication and promotion of company or professional activities? And our second question is, what's your go-to communication channel and when you communicate for development? All right, so the answers are coming in. It's pretty tight in terms of the time that you invest into the communication activities. And we'll wait a little bit more for all of you to participate. So it seems like most of you invest 50% of your time in the actual communication. And so far, Facebook is winning. Okay, now I'm stopping the poll, and we can see that most of you invest half of your time into communication, and Facebook is the dominant communication channel. Perfect, thank you very much. And now we are going to start with our first speaker.
Our first speaker, Judith Palantinos from TISHA office, will guide us through the basics of the integration of various communication channels and best practices for increasing the resonance of the communicated message.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, can you see it now?
Yes, we can see it perfectly.
Cool. So, hi everyone, my name is Judith Palatinos and I'm from Hungary. I work for the Middle-Tisza District Water Directorate, and I'm going to talk about the integration of various communication channels and best practices for increasing the resonance of the communicated message. So I will try to introduce you to the most efficient use of social networks at work, and I'm also going to share my best practices and ideas with you through my previous and recent work experiences. So I think by today, as even the questionnaire showed us, we reached a point of life when we have enormous amount of apps and social networks where we can communicate, share our ideas, post our thoughts and feelings, but which one to use and to which purpose, and to reach out the targeted audience with the clearest message. I will try to answer to these questions in this short 5 minutes. So first of all, no. Sorry. Okay, here we go. As even you guys answered, Facebook is the most popular, I think, still for everyone, and it's mainly because I think it's multifunctional. Like in our water directorate, we are responsible for water management and flood protection. And that means that during the flood wave, we have to communicate the most recent data concerning the flood clearly to the population, which we do on multiple platforms. But Facebook became one of the most most popular and best solution through the years, since nowadays we not just use it to play games and send messages, but me myself also use it to get information from my region, from the whole world, and be up to date. And also as a project manager, I often have to coordinate the job of different working groups, which would be really difficult without a group conversation on Messenger, where we can even share our prepared documents, Excel files, presentations, everything basically. And we can even have like a quick web meeting, even if we are not in the office or on the road, which makes it really easy and pretty handy. Since everyone has a smartphone with a messenger app on it, is the easiest solution, I think, to reach through to everyone and communicate our messages easily and rapidly. So the second one for me is Google+. In my previous job, I was responsible for the inventory of thousands of jobs. And at first I used Excel files, which worked just fine. But after I realized that since our computers were not connected in a way that we could use the same Excel file, and everyone started to add their own data in a separate file, that caused many misunderstandings and the loss of the data. Then I figured that I could just easily use the business Google account of our company and copy every every file that is shared to our Google Drive, so anyone can open it who works at the company, and we don't even have to be in the office. So that made our life a lot easier and our job a lot more remote. Plus less time consuming, and at the end we made a lot less mistakes. So the last one is Zoom, which became popular due to COVID, for us at least. Most of our meetings are online, and for that purpose, my favorite platform is Zoom. It's really easy to use, really convenient for web-based live meeting, chats, polls, everything. There are competitor platforms such as Skype and Join.me. However, in our project, we almost use every time the Zoom. If you have good internet connection, it works fluently, perfectly, and it has good design. All right. And the last platform that I wanted to mention is YouTube. Within the water management sector, we started using it as well, especially during the lockdown and the COVID. We all realized that somehow we just need to feel more connected, even than before. And we made a couple of videos just to light up each other's day a bit. And yeah, so together I think those are the best platforms for successful business communication that are easy to use, easily available to all members of the working group, and that we're adopting in our professional life. Thank you for the attention.
Thank you very much, Judith. Thanks a lot for your presentation. Our next speaker, Monica Eriksson from Global Water Partnership, will show us how to make the invisible work visible, or in other words, how to create a content that sticks. Monica, the floor is yours.
Great, many thanks, Gergos, and it's a pleasure to be here. So if Gergos, if you can share my PowerPoint, that would be great. So
sure. Just a second.
At my time at the Global Water Partnership, I've had the privilege to both work for and with youth. So, for example, I co-created the Youth for Water and Climate platform, the YWC, which is a digital platform connecting youth-led initiatives with the supporters and donors. And why I highlight this is because it's an excellent example of how to use communication as a tool for change. So now you may wonder what a person like me, who is from Generation X, is doing here talking to you, youth, about content creation, a domain where you sort of youth are dominating. Well, the answer is that to create content that sticks, you need to create a good strategy, and a lot of work is needed behind the scenes. So today I want to sort of highlight and make that kind of invisible work visible by highlighting some of the steps and concepts that are attached to it. So we can move to the next slide, Gergos. So how do we strategize around content? Well, first step is to look at, of course, what is the goal? What is the problem that we're trying to solve? And who is your community? Who are the audiences that you're trying to target? And what is your voice that you want to approach these audiences with? As we know, tonality is really important when it comes to content creation. And where is the best way to reach them? Where are they? Are they on social media? Yeah, then the content on social media makes sense. And what kind of content do you want to reach them with? If you have photos, videos, and so forth. For example, if you have a photo, what is it that you want the photo to communicate? And another important factor is what kind of communication approach you're using. So are you using communications for doing good, what we call communication for development, using communication as a tool for social change? Or are you using communication for looking good, a tool to communicate about yourself or your initiative that you want to promote yourself? Digital storytelling is an example of communication for development, when content is created by the community themselves, by the people, their voices are heard. And for example, by using mobile phones and so forth. So they're not scripted, you get the authentic content by doing this. And this is very different than from doing promotional videos where everything is scripted. You almost know from the beginning what kind of product that you want at the end. And why I highlight this is because you need different strategies to sort of tackle both. It's not saying that one is right or one is wrong, but it's just that they are different ways of doing them. And also linked to this is also the purpose of your communication. Do you want to speak up for a certain issue? Is it awareness raising that you want to do? Like now, for example, with the World Water Day and other UN days, like the International Women's Day, you see a lot of buzz around in the social media. And then, yeah, social media could be a good way of doing it. Or do you have a specific change in mind, or is a specific decision that you want to shape? Then you need another kind of tactic, another content creation. Maybe a letter to a minister is what you need. You don't need social media for this. So this is also very important to think about. And if we then look briefly about the digital content that is trending, that was trending in 2020. So we see that educational and entertaining content is high on the list. And we also see that personalized content is sort of high on the list with the targeted emails, and also data-driven content. And you don't need a lot of data to sort of be able to create some data-driven content. But important here is to say that quality goes over quantity. You want to avoid being just this megaphone or broadcasting all your messages. You also want to engage your audience. Then we can move to the next slide, Jergus. So lastly, I wanted to show some concrete and some creative content that we have done, that GWP has done for our Water Changemaker Awards competition. So we had a 6 weeks campaign, and we wanted to get as many submissions as possible from around the world, organizations sort of submitting their change journeys. So what we did here was that we created visuals to help to move the campaign forward. So in image 1, you see we created a how-to guide, how to fill out a quite complex submission form in the format of a journey, sort of playing on the more positive emotions of people. And in image 2, you see, we wanted to illustrate who was this campaign for? Who is it that we want to submit submissions? And also what is the kind of content and change journeys we're looking for? So we illustrated this in terms of a sort of like a piecing this together in a puzzle with a Tetris, also playing on this emotional side. And in the third image, you see, we also targeted youth. Youth was a key audience for our Water Changemaker Awards. But we wanted the youth to talk about something that has happened in the past. So that's, we hosted a Facebook Live, and you can see here that the visual is sort of, is a time traveler back to the sort of past. And as you can see, we did a Facebook Live together with the Youth Parliament and also the Water Youth Network. These are just a couple of examples. I could speak forever about this, but I look forward to also seeing you in the breakout groups where we can discuss all of this much more. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Monica. That was very inspiring. And coming up, Patrizio Pazos from GWP and his true story about how storytelling heals communities.
Thank you so much, Sophia. And just give me a second that I will pull my presentation here. I am Story. Are you? So welcome to the introduction to storytelling, and thank you, Monica, for a great overview on strategic content creation. Now I would like to transition to a funny but powerful story on how I harvested eggs, got little chickens, and how that impacted on my own personal community. I was 7 years old and I was obsessed with having little chickens, but I wanted to also see them hatching from their eggs. I bought dozen after dozens of eggs, and I would put them in a box and place them under the heating system, and guess what? After 21 days, I got nothing because the conditions were not the right ones to harvest eggs. However, my former kindergarten teacher saw my enthusiasm about raising a little chicken, and she offered me one. So I was so happy about this little chicken that I was telling everybody. One day I was at my music class, and I told my teacher that this little chicken was one out of the eggs that I was taking care at home, which was a little white lie, but internally I was laughing a lot. 3 days later, my moral kicked in and I told her the truth, and she was pleased about the little joke that I played on her. She went to my mom, who was also a teacher, and told her what I did. I remember this memory as of today, and I laugh a lot every time I tell it. And now you're asking yourselves, why is this guy sharing a personal story? And I share my story to express that through stories we heal our communities, because we connect in ways that we cannot connect if we share facts instead. Healing, it's regeneration, it's connection, and it's maturity. I can tell this story as an adult in first person, and I connect with really, really nice feelings at that time. When you're a kid, your community is your family, your friends, your school, and the same happens with projects and with the initiatives related to the international development sphere. So now I want to dive in a little bit on storytelling and on itself. And I am talking in the first person. I am a story, and the same applies for projects and for different initiatives, because we should always speak on first person when we tell a story. But before telling the story, it is important to understand and to know who we are, identifying our voice, identifying our values, identifying the different aspects of our story. What defines us as a project, as an initiative? Then we can go to the next step, which is being who we are. And there is when we actually tell our story, when we are going to share the change that we made happen through our project. And then the only thing that is left us to do, it is being consistent in who you are, and in that being, in knowing and being. So you keep that consistency. Storytelling brings the core of your initiative to the surface. It brings empathy to your project, and it creates momentum for these moments of me too. I thought I was the only one, and wow, how did you do that? It also connects people and makes change happen. And now I want to go to my last part of this short presentation, and the question I ask myself is, how old is storytelling? And well, the answer is simple. Storytelling is as old as humanity. We tell stories because they stick longer in our memories, and they connect us with different feelings. And here there is a little example of the Water Changemakers Award. It's a meme that we created for our campaign based on a very old painting from Guru. And sorry if I mispronounced the surname. And this is basically a very simple story that is part of a campaign. Thank you for tuning into the storytelling session, and I look forward to work with you in the breakout groups.
Thank you very much for this great presentation, Patricio. So our last speaker is Helen Gilcaro from ICPDR, and she will further enrich the discussion with decision maker communication and how young professionals can get together to work on joint topics.
Yeah, thanks, Jerry. Thanks for having me. This is really amazing. I mean, I'm here to like sort of show you something, but I'm already learning so much. So that's amazing. I'm just gonna try to also learn how to properly share my screen, which is always an issue. Yep, should work. Does it work for you? Sorry about that. I should have sent my slides earlier. Is everything good?
Yeah, we can see your screen perfectly.
Okay, great. So. There we go. Okay, excellent. So just a few seconds taken off for that. But so as I said, my name is Hélène Maslier-Gilkarov. I work for the ICPDR, for the International Commission for the Protection of the Danube River. I am what you call a technical expert, which I'm totally not. It's a misinformation, but it's the way we are being labeled at the Secretariat. Basically, my job and what I spend about 100% of my time doing, I was answering your poll before, is doing communication for the people and stakeholder engagement. This is truly important, and this is for a huge basin like ours. If you look at it, we are the most international river basin in the world. We are the ICPDR, so with 15 member countries, including the European Commission, and with the Danube following the flow of the Danube from Germany to the Black Sea before it enters the Black Sea. So we've been out there for since the mid-90s. I won't go back to our history. This is not relevant. You can check our website. But what we do, what we have, which makes us so special, is that we are the only river basin organization in the world that has a person with a full-time position dealing with public participation and communication. That is a big thing for a river commission. And in our commission, also one of the three goals, one of the drivers for us is to work for cleaner, healthier, and safer waters for future generations to enjoy. So what does that mean? That means that we at the ICPDR are clearly banking on the youth. The youth is our future, and the youth is in our DNA as an organization. This is very important for us, and this is what drives us, and this is why I'm so so happy to be here to talk to a younger public and to make sure that they know who we are and that they know that we are out there to give them as much information as they need and to help us also in our processes. And I'll get back to that. Real quick, we do reach to a younger public, but this younger public is limited to elementary, middle school, and to, it stops around the age of 14, 15. So we're trying to work on that. So either we work with a very young sort of segment or with the older one when we do our public consultation. We have Danube Day every year on the 29th of June, and we have the Danube Art Master, which I want to thank GWPC for helping us co-organizing that. This is an environmental art competition, and it brings a lot of attention to what we're doing for the Danube, for the younger generation. But there is another part of our work which is very important, and where the young, sort of a little bit older kids, I would say, the students and the younger generation, the policy makers of the future. I mean, I see how the way this whole event is being set up. This is admirable. So we're talking also to you, and we're saying that we are opening our public consultation processes to you guys, and it's very, very important for us to have you on board. Very often, young people are not necessarily the target group in what we're doing, which is really something that we don't do on purpose. It's a mistake by omission. It's because there's not enough manpower for that. There's not enough capacity, whatever else. I mean, there's no excuse, but this is really, so what we're trying to do is we're trying to change that trend, and we're trying to reach out more and more to a younger public and to a public that's really the policymaker and the decision makers of the future. This is done in the framework of a consultation workshop, which is going to be held this year on the 29th of June, where we're going to ask all the stakeholders of the Danube River Basin to help us really decide what our river basin management and flood risk management plans should look like. These are images of the last workshop. Unfortunately, this new workshop is going to move online, but it's still very, very important for you to know that we are there and that we are listening to you. We're waiting for you on that workshop on the 29th of June. So mark your calendars for that. There will be more information. GWPC is also helping us organizing this event. This is an event where we want the youth to be an integral part of the public, of those who can comment on what's happening in their basin, the policy of today and the plans of tomorrow. Social media has also been really a breakthrough and a game changer in the way we do communications here. We launched our platforms 2 years ago. We are active on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. We have a YouTube channel. And we're doing really well there because we have realized that with limited resources, we can really map our stakeholders and reach out to them. We also learn to change the content that we are publishing and the content that we are using. And we're really making sure that everybody's being reached out there via social media, and it's going super well with the contents being shareable online. Finally, again, a repetition of what I said before. I can only say one thing. When I was listening to Monica and to Judith talking about the fact that, you know, there's all these new techniques out there that some of us might be of the older generation. That's how I see myself. And I can only say one thing, Judith, when you were talking about the Google Docs, I was just, I was smiling because I have my own kids. And when I told them that, that I was using Google Docs, they looked at me, and that I was being like more digitally active. They sort of looked at me and saying kind of, you know, that kind of look that just tells you, okay, it's time to look for a retirement home for our mom. So I hope that's not the case, like quite the opposite. I hope we can learn from each other, and I'd be very happy to do so in the future. So you, the young generation, the young people, really please participate into our activities. We have a wealth of information for you. There is interest from students out there. We're here. Really set this dialogue with us, continue talking to us, and we love to talk to you, and we love to help you, and you're a major stakeholder, so you should know that. So yeah, if you want to find us, here's our website, and I've been happy to be here with you this afternoon. Thank you for your attention.
Big thanks to all speakers for very great presentations. We'll now go through the questions submitted in the chat, and of course, feel free to ask yours even now, because for now we have only one question in the chat. So the question is the Miro board related to every participant to use? And the answer is yes, we'll be working on with the Miro board in the breakout rooms. But if you are not comfortable with this app, don't worry. In every group, there will be a Miro manager who will help you put your ideas on the board. So if you have any more questions, just write them in the chat.
Thank you very much, Zofia. Just to add to this, each group will have a facilitator and Miro board manager. This means you will be able to either interact directly with the board through the provided link, or you can just speak up and let our guys do the hard work. So if you have any questions for our speakers, we got a couple of minutes to answer them. And you can either use the chat, or you can speak freely right now, or stay silent forever.
Well, I actually have one question. Maybe I'll jump in here if there's nobody taking the stage. I'm kind of wondering, have you guys noticed something different in the communications area since COVID hit? So like in the past year, what has changed, or what has been the main influence, or how has your practices changed? Because I feel like there's been so much noise in the communications area that's been taken by COVID. So how have you still managed to get your messages through your target groups in this like crazy world that we're in?
If I can answer that question, yeah. I would say that this has been a game changer for us at the ICPDR. We've been actually working so much more on social media and using other channels and using visual methodologies. We've really increased our audience tremendously through that, which is very surprising. The only issue is at the beginning, you know, people were like, okay, a Zoom meeting, another Zoom meeting, we're tired of Zoom meetings. That's a little bit the issue that we do have. But it's more communicating with our people, because otherwise, like within the ICPDR family, because we're so used to having meetings in person, that all of a sudden moving online has been difficult. But for our audience outside, it's been the opposite effect, and they're very, very happy. So it's been a very positive, in a sad, of course, world, a very positive development.
Thank you very much, Helen. Is there any question from our audience? If not, I might have another question to our speakers. Say I am a new communications person, and I was tasked with starting up the whole communication as such within our organization. Do you have any tips or tricks? What should I do first?
Yeah, because I think you should listen to my presentation, and I think you can cover a long way. I think starting with strategy, starting with seeing where you are and who you want to reach and what you want to do. Sort of there are no shortcuts, I think, from the comms strategy and also the comms planning. That's what I meant with the sort of invisible work. That is where to start. Otherwise, you might end up doing a lot of things that may have little effect. So that would be my #1 tip.
Thank you very much, Monica. Is there anyone else who would like to add anything to this?
I can add something, and I think it's also related to what I presented. It is very important to understand the organization, in this case, who we are, and then being and staying true to that, to those values, to that voice, and to understand the voice of the organization, and then keeping consistency all along. So those would be my 3 tips.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Patricia. So we got another question from the audience. Is there any specific difference between planning communications for development and communications in general, like PR?
maybe I can, since I touched upon this a little bit in my presentation, yes, for sure. As I think this communication for development, that you use that, it's more authentic content. You're not scripting them, you're sort of getting people to have their own voice. So that could be, instead of hiring a filmmaker or whatever, you sort of give mobile phones to the community, and then they have their own voice and they create their own content. And that is different from if, for example, an organization wants to make a promotional video, because there is where you you plan the script in advance. You know who you want to be part of this video, for example, and you sort of script, you have the questions, so you lead sort of the answers, you know what is what you want to get out of it. So I would say that you could use these kind of communications for different purposes for sure. So there is a big difference.
So if I understood that correctly, the communication for development is more natural, right? It's less scripted and more adapted to the actual situation.
Yeah, they have their own voice. So it's not something that you sort of...
Perfect, thank you very much.
We have another question. This is the question for Hélène. Are there any politically, socioeconomically motivated communication barrier that exists in Danube conservation? Or have you felt that it exists, since the political scenario is quite complicated among the countries sharing the river?
Right, that's an excellent question. Thank you for that. It is a complex political landscape that we have. And there's one thing, unfortunately, in 5 minutes, I cannot touch upon everything that we do with the ICPDR, but you have to understand that as the Commission, we act on sort of like on a roof level. And then the countries have more autonomy. So we cannot really get into what the countries decide. But what we can do is every 6 years, that's what I was talking about before, inviting the younger public, the young youth to attend our public consultation workshop and to watch out also for the public consultation campaign. Every 6 years, we submit the river basin management plan and the flood risk management plan for an update. And this is exactly where we are now. So while this is complicated on a day-to-day basis, I think once every 6 years, the stakeholders really have an opportunity to get into these more policy-related agendas, and whatever they're saying is being transferred, and information goes to the policymakers. So there is this possibility here, but it is, of course, we are mandated by the countries. We have a mandate to implement the Water Framework Directive and the Floods Directive in the region. So we don't have so much margin of action per se, but the stakeholders do. I hope that answers whoever's question.
Thank you very much, Hélène. And we got time for one last question. And I guess this one is for the guys from GWP to answer. It's a question from Anastasia, and the question is, how is the communication being in developing countries, considering the cost of internet and bundles are high or limited? Is there any strategies for them?
I think I can take that question, and then Monica, if you want to add and complement the answer. There are two important things to break down in the question, and the first one is like, do you want to achieve international impact or local impact? If we're going to focus on the local impact, therefore we need to understand how is that community communicating within the community. And then if in that case there are struggles with the internet, and therefore that community might be communicated in a different way. Perhaps in the old-fashioned way of the leaflets. I don't know, I remember when I was a kid seeing all these leaflets about the pizza place around the corner. Therefore, there are different strategies for the communities that don't have access to internet or to that type of connection.
And just to add a very small thing is, I also think it's important to partner with other organizations. I think it's like, for example, the GWP is a network with 13 regions and so forth. So it's sort of, there's always a way of getting voices heard through partners and through the network. So that's another important aspect.
Perfect. Thank you very much, everyone, for this really juicy Q&A session. And now we're entering the second part of our session, where we will be split into small groups working on a fictional scenario to build a basic communication strategy. The result will be represented. The result will represent a foundation framework that you can use and build upon in your future endeavors. In some 20 minutes, we'll get back and report on our work. And you can access the board via the link in the chat. Alternatively, like we said before, you can use the Zoom microphone or chat, and we will do the rest for you. We'll probably split into 3 groups based on the number of participants. And the last thing left to mention is happy planning, and see you soon.
Hi.
Hey, Sophie. Quick question, Sophia or Sophie, are you going to share the screen on the Miro, or do you prefer me to do it?
When I was talking to Jerry, he told me that the moderator will be sharing the screen and the manager will just work with the Miro board. Okay,
I will share the screen. So I hope you can see the screen now. We're on group 3. And first, it is important that we check on the made-up scenario, and then we will discuss all the different aspects on how to create this communications strategy. So the made-up scenario, it's Save Our River. You represent, you can, if you have a notepad or you want to take some notes on a Word document, that would be great, because then it will help to your thinking. So you represent a youth environmental organization trying to save a polluted international river, and there is plastic pollution throughout the whole length of the river, caused by adjacent cities and industrial zones. Your task is to launch a new online campaign to promote your actions and resonate the issue. Find your group board and together build upon the provided framework to create a successful online campaign. So the basic scenario, it's no budget, and I can't really see because I can't move Monica from here. Well, it's basically no budget, and you are no budget limitation. There we have it. You are one-man army communications person, no communications team. So currently you only have a Facebook page with 4.2K followers, and the overall goal of the organization is to become known after and sought after. So now if we go to the group number 3 board, which I will be here, it will be super important to hear your thoughts. So you can unmute yourselves, and I cannot see the list of participants because I am sharing my screen, but I encouraged you to unmute yourselves and think, what would the goal of this campaign be? What do you want to achieve with this campaign? Remember that it's a polluted river and that you want to resonate your activities towards healing that river. If you cannot talk, then you can also send me a chat. But we will be very happy to hear your thoughts here.
I'm sorry, can you go back over the description of the issue again?
Yes, so remember, it's a youth environmental organization trying to save a polluted river. And basically the goal is to create a campaign that highlights your actions towards this issue. So you don't have a budget limitation, you can spend a lot of money, you only are one person in the communications team, and you have a Facebook page. And the overall goal of the organization is to become known and sought after. Basically, it's recognition. So what would be the goal of this campaign if you want to show your actions?
So it seems, I don't want to be the only one talking, but the goal of the campaign, based on what was placed there, is to, I guess, bring more attention to the organization and by extension, the issue. So kind of placing the youth organization in this broader, like within the context of this broader issue. So I think that, from my perspective, that's what the goal of the campaign would be.
So could we translate this into raise awareness about the issue and therefore the organization?
I guess, yes.
Because raise awareness always, and this one it's when from the communications perspective, remember that your goal has to be measurable. So if your goal says raise awareness, you will be able to measure that at the end of the campaign. So this is very important. But please, Sophia, when you write the other when you write the goal, please don't delete what we just had in the beginning. So we have both. I think it's important to grab all the.
I would say raise awareness of the issue as well as of the organization as well.
Okay, then those two, I think they are super good. Raise awareness of the issue and organization. Maybe the organization actions?
Yes, true.
Okay. And who would you be targeting? Tamika is your name, sorry, right?
Yes.
Or okay.
Policymakers, maybe.
Okay. Thanks for that. So policymakers, it's one group, and I think it's a very valid one.
Other youth, like youth general.
Okay, other youth. I think that sounds great. Always, now we will not be able to go in detail here, but it is super important that when you plan your target or groups, or I always prefer to call personas, it's that we define who these people are, these groups are, we define their characteristics, and we understand their way of thinking. In this way, we would be doing it with educated guesses, basically, because you will never know exactly what they're thinking. But then, if you understand a little bit of that group, then it's easier to go ahead in terms of the rest of the activities. And now we can jump into the next stage, which is the format. And in this case, we said we are going to raise awareness about the issue of the polluted river and the actions that the organization is going to do towards solving this issue. How would you do that? Are you promoting what are these actions that the organization is doing? Are you promoting an event? Are you promoting a webinar? Are you doing a campaign on Facebook about raising awareness about the issue of the polluted river? What do you think could be good to do here?
Well, considering that there's very little based on like the scenario that was made up, I think something virtual as well would be more fitting. So like a Facebook campaign of sorts.
Facebook campaign on what? On your activities or?
Well, I would say physical campaign about the issue itself, about the pollution of the river. So what that looks like, what the effects are like, what the effects are on the environment, on the people, as well as maybe to kind of drum up support for the actions that the organization is taking as well. And in that way, you'd be able to introduce the organization and the actions at the same time.
That sounds good. Could we have here some storytelling campaign? Do you think this would be helpful?
I would suggest maybe, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was about to suggest maybe some videos about the state of the river.
That sounds good.
Yeah, more graphical, representation, so that people will be able to visualize or really see for themselves if they haven't previously about the conditions.
That sounds great. That sounds great. I think we have a couple of, we have the goals, some target groups, we have some actions. Let's go into what differentiates your campaign from others. What would be the point that differentiates this campaign? We mentioned that we want the organization to be known for. Perhaps this campaign is differentiated from other organizations because of the storytelling campaign or because of a particular video. What do you think?
Well, it kind of, I think our campaign, if I can call it our campaign.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, okay, well, I think it'll be attractive if we can somehow convince that we have a strong structure in place so that we know what we have to do and how we do it. So we have a strong planning and implementation sort of mechanism, let's say. No, yeah, we just have to convince people that we know what we are doing. So in a way, we have to be comprehensive.
That sounds great. And now let's jump into the other important aspect of this campaign, which is the channels. We said in the beginning that in the ideal scenario, we only have Facebook, but we can dream a little bit bigger. Do you think Facebook, and what other channels can we use?
Well, we have videos, so I guess YouTube or Vimeo or something like that. We have.
But the videos are the product in itself, the content. When we refer to channels, we need to think on where are we going to place that.
Okay. Yeah. So YouTube for the videos. Stories could be in terms of newspaper articles or in newsletters or
I think also because we're targeting youth, we should think about maybe Instagram, Twitter.
That's great.
Because that's where a lot of youth consume their videos.
That sounds like a good approach. Because our audience, it's youth. I like that. And then let's jump into the timing. For how long do you think we should run this campaign? Is it tied to a specific date? Perhaps, I don't know, World Water Day that was that happened on Monday. Do you think that the campaign is just going to be for, only this day, or for a long time, a month, a year?
That's difficult. Well, from my perspective, I'm not really sure, and it's all based on what the goal is. From my perspective, so if you want to raise awareness, it maybe, like you mentioned, like a day, like World Water Day, you raise awareness towards a finished time.
Yeah.
Because there isn't any other goal besides raise awareness. There's not like a fixed deadline. So you need to, I guess, as an organization, you need to figure out what that deadline is.
Okay, that sounds good. And then let's go to see if we can jump into the three last topics. I'm not sure if we have how much time do we have left, but I guess it's 1 to 2 minutes. So what do you think could be the main pitch for this campaign? If you have to say, I don't know, this campaign in 3 to 4 words.
Clean river for a healthy living.
Clean rivers for health. Clean river for healthy.
Somehow to connect to your everyday life. Yeah.
That's good. That sounds nice. Tamika, do you think that this is good since you have been adding on the other topics?
Oh yeah. Something short and sweet is always good. Something like a catchphrase of sorts.
Sounds good. And now we can jump into the design and in the implementation. We mentioned that we were going to do storytelling, that we would be doing some videos here to target these groups. How do you think this design should be? Should we use just videos, or should we use images, a combination, or what type of illustration do you want? Do you think that we should use more pictures, or do you think that we should use more drawings, or both?
Maybe in situ photography can be a good idea, because you can always get a real-time update as well about, like, if you keep tracking the pollution, incoming pollution by photography, you'll be able to report it very easily. So that's a good way to do it.
I agree. Tamika?
To be honest, I'm a little confused between what is meant by design versus like format.
When you think of design, you are making the decisions of, do I want to use drawings, or do I want to use just photos, or do I want to use video footage for these other products that we were thinking beforehand? It's basically how the style that you're going to use. Personally, I prefer drawings, but it depends on the different type of communication that I'm going to do, and the campaign that I am going to do, and the audience that I am targeting. Where here we said policymakers and youth, so perhaps a combination of both could be actually a good thing to have.
True. So I do agree with the photography aspect, because especially with a river, it's really easy to track progress. And I do agree that there needs to be maybe like a report of sorts for the policy, because policymakers tend to like reports.
Yeah.
But again, like, I don't know if anybody has any other suggestions, because I'm just, in terms of like design, you'd have to like merge those all together, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we can add reports here on the format, so that's something we can add there. And in the meantime, Sophie's working on that. I will jump into resource distribution, which is in what channel would you invest your resources the most and why? And it's targeting ads. We said that we have Facebook, that we're going to use Instagram, and that we're going to use Twitter. We have money for that. We are running out of time. So in 1 minute, less than 1 minute, what do you think, Facebook or Instagram to invest more money?
Well, we have unlimited money, so why are we even prioritizing money?
Okay, then we can use Facebook and a little bit of money for Instagram. We said we had a lot of money. And how will we track?
The thing is, like, in Instagram, if you present an ad, it will already be posted on Facebook as well. Like, it's a combined effort by Instagram.
Okay, so welcome back, everyone. We hope you had fun. Let's see what each group came up with. I would like to ask a representative of the first group to swiftly report back on us on your strategy.
I think it's me and Helene who were the facilitators of the first group. So maybe Helene, you took notes with me, or maybe you can just do a little wrap up of our group.
Of course, I'll get started. So basically, in our little project here, what's very important is first to plan. Planning is very, very important. This is something that Monica has been teaching us, and I think she's absolutely right. Plan, plan, plan. That's what you need. But before that, you of course need a goal. So the overarching goal of our campaign is to raise awareness about the issue. Then we want to make sure that our target group is well defined. So we didn't have that much time, so we have decided that it would be people who live nearby rivers, but local authorities, and so community dwellers, or local communities. They're both the target group and also the communication channels in our work. The way we want to get started is, for example, we started with an online competition. This is an easy and sort of attractive tool that, especially since we have a social media account that we can use, an online competition. But it's also important to remember that while social media channels are important, it's not the only thing. And we still need that face-to-face contact. So we want to work with the authorities, and we feel that maybe the authorities don't all have social media channels, and maybe they like these face-to-face meetings. So this is also something we want to work on. We also need to make sure that we have a good timing. Monica, you stop me whenever you want to take over again. So we want to make sure that we have a good timing here. We want to have a clear start and date. But we also feel that the first weeks have to be used very wisely because they are decisive for the success of our project. And yeah, how are we going to present our campaign? I mean, this is very important that people become there's a buy-in from our stakeholders, and that they understand the consequences, which we hope would be beneficial, of course. So the benefits of the project, and because we want to get those people involved, become advocates of what we are trying to do. Yes, I mean, a lot of using social media in general. And finally, the tracking is also very important. You cannot measure success if you don't track it. Of course, again, we're going back to social media. We have a very sustainable and cheap and low budget project. So we're using a lot of social media, but not only, as we said. So we want to track the interactions, of course, on social media. But again, we are always adding this face-to-face, this personal touch, and measuring the numbers of meetings, for example, that we would have with policymakers. That's I think, in a nutshell. Monica, you may want to add something.
Super, excellent wrap up. Thank you, Helen. And one thing we also mentioned was partnering with others is also a good and effective way. So thank you.
Thank you very much. The guy who's going to report from the group 2 is me. So I'll try to make it short. First of all, our goal that we set up was to enforce an environmental policy, or try to support one that is being created. We really thought that the general public and companies, NGOs, and authorities alike should be the ones targeted in order to achieve the highest impact. The ones that have leverage and power to change things, just like governmental representatives and politicians, are our primary target groups, as they say. Now, in terms of format, we decided to go with using our social platform or social media platform, where we can collaborate with local celebrities and authorities in creating a campaign on plastic pollution. But our main format is a training and awareness workshop where our audiences can meet and work on the solutions together. These will also be supported by public consultations and events to raise funds. What would separate us from others is the fact that we want this to be a youth-led approach, to let the youth think of what should be the best, not just for our future, but for the future of new generations. This can separate our campaign, involving all stakeholders, and so on and so on. In terms of communication channels, since we are pretty strong and established in Facebook, we decided to be that to be our primary channel. However, we also want to start a new page on Twitter, since it's fast-paced and many governments use it too. And for the other content from the workshops, we're also going to use a newly created YouTube channel. We didn't have much time left for many other sections, but we decided to go with videos and blogs reporting from the workshops. And for the tracking, we plan to use the social media tracking apps that are provided within the actual social media. So that's pretty much it from the group 2. And now I would like to ask the group 3 for a quick report back. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jurgis. I can report back on group 3. Thanks for your participation in group 3 to all of you, and thanks, Sophie, for taking care of all the notes for the group. And our campaign, it's based on 2 big goals. One is raising awareness about the issue, and then the other goal is raising awareness on the organization action on itself, and it's targeting policymakers and youth as main groups. And then the format of this campaign will be through a storytelling campaign that will be it's incorporating videos about the state of the river and a graphic representation, and a Facebook campaign on the issue itself to draw support to this cause. And this will, of course, increase the awareness this is intending to increase the awareness on the issue. And one of the things that might differentiate this campaign from others is that there is a strong planning behind this campaign, and there is a strong planning from the organization in general of each of those activities. The communication channels that will be used are Facebook, YouTube, newsletters, and different stories on Instagram and Twitter that are targeting specifically youth. The timing for the campaign, one, it's we got to talk specifically about different days, for instance, World Water Day, or these important dates that happen during the year, and these dates should be also based on the goals that we defined in the beginning. And one of the pitches that we thought for this campaign, and thank you for the contributions on the pitch, it's clean rivers for a healthy living. And then in terms of the design, it could be a combination between photos that are basically tracking the pollution on the river, and at the same time different drawings that could help in depicting this program. And then when it comes to resource distribution, in terms of paid ads, the focus could be more on Facebook and Instagram and targeting more youth. And then those we can measure and keep track of through analytics, and also in terms of the policymakers, of course, that success will be measured at travers so through different meetings that the organization will be having with the policymakers. So thank you, and over to you, Jurgis.
Thank you very much, Patricio. And that's the end of our session. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Global Water Partnership is celebrating 25 years, and we are inviting you to check our websites to find more about how we communicate authentic content for water secure future. Don't forget to drop by at today's networking session, where you can find us and discover more. Have a wonderful day, and bye-bye.